Hello and welcome to our third webinar. We are covering using OKR philosophies in the hospitality industry. We're bringing to you our book knowledge and work experience of OKRs, or objectives and key results, to the hospitality industry. I'm your host, Courtney Mallory, and today we're going to talk about Measure What Matters by John Doerr with Nicole Cutrufo. We'll discuss the ins and outs of OKRs and offer listeners a bit of extra information at the end. So please be sure to listen all the way through for those details. Nicole, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Courtney. So excited that we are reading this book together and that we can share with you a bit of our experience as project managers working with OKRs, or objective and key results. I'm excited as well because these three chapters are really talking about my favorite part of OKRs, which is accountability, focus and commit to priorities, but also making sure that the people who are on board of the journey are accountable for those priorities. Should we start with a quote?
Yes. We don't hire smart people to tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do, from Steve Jobs. And I think that's a great way to kind of jump in. OKRs we'll get into. It's more about kind of aligning and connecting and letting teams plan. Before that, let's do a little mini recap. So from our first and second webinar, we discussed the first two OKR superpower, which is the focus and commit to priorities, and align and connect for teamwork. And in those, we learned that an objective is what is to be achieved, no more, no less, and key results are the benchmark and monitor how we get to those objectives. And under the focus and commit, we learned more about how leadership must personally commit to the process. They need to own it, and that modeling really lets employees and frontline workers want to commit to. There's good and bad OKRs. We learned about the bad example I remember was like Wells Fargo and just all of those really fake and fraud accounts that got created. So there is a difference between good and bad. And also to really focus is pick 3 to 5 OKRs. And within that, make sure you're aiming for a 3 to 6 month process of when they come due and when you kind of grade yourself and do a review session over, what's been accomplished. So those are couple of things that but to keep in mind, because this session will build off of that. So Nicole, we're going to jump into the third superpower, which is
track for accountability. So track for accountability, as we were saying at the beginning, is the core of OKR setting. And it's really the support, the foundation of building up transparency within an organization and among team members. Research shows that public goals are more likely to be attained than goals held in private. And we all know that, because if we are accountable, for example, for reaching a goal, we have more chances to be nudged by peers and colleagues, friends and family than keeping it for ourselves. So this is something that we can really apply to all our life, but it is so true and important when we are coordinating teams and activities, and we were named a couple of goals that we set together. The transparency takes out some of the toxic politicking as well at work. And it's something that we have read in the book, that it is totally inspiring. Our leaders are setting themselves accountable to be transparent and to be showing and willing to share with the company and peers what is on their table, what is their top priority, and what other people should be focusing as well. So inspiring as well the collaboration, being transparent first. As project managers, it's something that we aim to, the collaboration. And in this chapter of the book, we learn about the superpower of making people accountable for their own work, but also aligning team members to know what other people are working on. So, for example, Courtney was sharing how it's important to set good OKRs, and that it's possible also to draft bad OKRs. But on the other end, is it also very, very fundamental to make sure that we assign those key results and those objectives to the right people and make them accountable end to end. OKRs, it's something that can help an organization to avoid micromanagement. And of course, in the book, the author says micromanagement is mismanagement. A healthy OKR environment strikes a balance between alignment and autonomy, common purpose, and creative latitude. And this is very inspiring, right? But it is also very important to think how this micromanagement can be avoided also on ourselves. Just giving more space to think of what is the next objective that we want to achieve.
Yeah, I think OKRs, it's like you said before, it kind of can take out some of the blurry lines. It makes objectives more black and white. OKR shows ownership. It shows who's responsible for what. And so as project managers, we're very focused on the work side, but then a large focus of project management also really is the people side. And so by using a tool like OKRs, it's really such an important tool that we like to talk about and we equip with our work, because it can take out some of the people problems of not knowing who's doing what, or kind of figuring out down the line. The alignment and kind of connecting teams through OKRs is really can change a work culture very significantly.
Yes, definitely. It impacts the work culture, I would say, because using the objective and key results system, we have seen how organizations can really stretch above and beyond. But on the other end, making sure that the team members are onboarded on this bigger purpose and feeling part of this mission. So somehow it is also impacting the way that people collaborate. And as managers, how the managers can really coordinate cross-functional teams, which I think is very, very important nowadays.
Yeah, and like the slide that we have up now, studies have shown that frontline employees thrive when they can see how their work aligns with the company's overall goals. And I think that feeling of meaning and purpose when you're in a team of 50 people, and then the company's 200, 300 plus, to see that where you line up to where the company's vision, it shows that it matters. And having OKRs and letting the whole company see each other's matters. From an example in the book, from an IT company, Intuit, the manager was talking about how all of his IT team was trying to match their OKR to his, and how it just kind of really took the focus away from the actual work. And once he said, no, like, you work together as a team, like, make sure you kind of figure out what objectives and key results the IT team needs to kind of accomplish and kind of create, then they were able to kind of create more needed and significant OKRs that connected more with the purpose of their projects. And so kind of the managers need to be involved, but then also the IT workers know the work the best, because they're the ones who are having to solve the problems, and they can see how to kind of accomplish it. And so that's a nice empowering kind of way to kind of put the work in the hands of the people who are the most skilled to do the work.
Yes, and something that it is very inspiring in this chapter of the book from this example. It is a challenge to really find a balance in between high levels strategic thinking and then the day by day execution, and making sure that those people who are accountable are really driving as well, with their example, the execution of these key results. So I think in the example that you mentioned, we also seen some of the struggles and some of the challenges that this company had, but which is something that we can find in every project. So the methodology really helps you to set up the ground for success and the team for success and give it that transparency, but it doesn't say that it is the easiest thing to do. In fact, it is not easy to balance the accountability of people and the execution as well, at the end of the day, and as well the participation of the upper level management, giving the example and setting the example of transparency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they struggled. The Intuit company also struggled with. They created company OKRs for people instead of matching people to the OKRs. They claimed that they had it backwards, and so that's also, per company kind of culture. Maybe having company OKRs would work, but you kind of have to understand your work culture and your people and the work that you're doing to really know how to kind of apply the OKRs in the best way, and each way that it gets applied will look different. So there's really no perfect way. There's these examples that we're reading about. There's some lessons learned, but people kind of interpret them differently, and that's kind of a powerful thing too. That per person, that they can still be impactful, but then as a company, it might look a little different in the application side.
Yeah. And something that I wanted to bring up from this example is also the small steps, like the learnings along the way, because the OKR process really helped this company to understand how to be a little better step by step, how to measure that improvement, and how to set better key results, instead of just setting the deadlines without really understanding what was the final goal that the team wanted to achieve. So getting rid of the revenue and deadlines goals, rather thinking of what was the bigger aim of that effort. And this is something that we can relate to, that we want to set up small steps for the team, but at the same time measure those steps, and then taking the courage to aim for more and going above and beyond, having a clear and transparent final goal and aim and purpose for the team to work with.
Yes, I definitely agree to that. Kind of moving on, an interesting part that I definitely kind of agree with is the quote that's listed on the slide right now. Connected companies are quicker companies. And from some examples in the book, it really shows how cross-team integration and having cross-functional coordination of the practice of OKRs in first startups, but then startups that grew into bigger companies, really can make companies very stand out when they're connected. And when they're connected, they can be quick in making decisions, in releasing product, and by just making a bigger difference to their clients and customers. Transparency creates very clear signals for everyone, where the cure is lateral, cross-functional connectivity, peer-to-peer and team-to-team. For innovation and advanced problem solving, isolated individuals can't match a connected group. So another company example in the book is MyFitnessPal, which was a small fitness app designed to kind of track calorie intake and kind of promote good eating habits and healthy workouts. and it was just a brother team. And the two of them, they were great. They were using OKRs. They were making manageable goals and completing them in the time that they wanted to. But the struggle was when Under Armour acquired them, and then it was a huge company, and there were, a huge sales department and a big marketing department, and that integration was harder than they had anticipated. And it wasn't until that they used OKRs that then things started getting back on the right track. One issue that they had was they had hired really intelligent people, but they weren't producing more work. And so by not working smartly, they were really just kind of losing money. And once they started implementing OKRs and having everyone aware of what everyone's working on and kind of working to those key results, that they are obviously no longer a startup now and definitely a huge company, but it was a lot of trial and error. One thing that I think is a very important reminder each time we do a webinar, each time we talk about OKRs, each time you try to do it personally or in your company, is that the more you use them, the easier it becomes. The more you write an objective, the better it's going to get, and the more detailed and the more measurable your key results will become. So it's definitely something that you just have to kind of keep practicing at for it to be as effective as you intend for it to be.
Yes, I just wanted to add to it that I think it is more and more important this the accountability right now in company working remotely, because like if you think about a work day for a person in an international team, for example, it is still so different. So it's so important to be focusing the energies and on the right objectives, but also to be accountable for the results and be able to measure them. And as Courtney was saying, it is also a work that it is not happening all of a sudden. Like we need to get used to that process and execute it and try to get it better and better, to setting the right goals and measuring them. And also these big companies examples and best practices are sharing in these chapters their learnings and their mistakes. And I really like, for example, in the Intuit case, when they actually think of themselves as a startup. So it is something that it's so inspiring to see how it is important, and it is written in the DNA of the company, how to be a startup, even when you scale up, even if we are such a big corporation and have teams spread all around the world, how you want to set up your mission and goals and being aligned and making sure that your team are aligned and willing to share as well failures and learnings or results that were not achieved. I think it's something that is really not only inspiring, but it is something that can be replicated in all types of teams and missions and projects. So, for example, if you're listening to this webinar and you want to start drafting your OKRs, in the previous episode, we touched base on the method. Then we covered a bit of how is a good and a bad OKR drafting. And we also share the templates that you could use. But something that we may be able to add after this webinar today is also how to assign those key results to your team or to yourself, with the aim of making yourself and the team accountable for achieving that specific key result after the review cycle.
Yeah, and putting it into practice will really help and force you to really think day to day, are are the tasks that you're doing aligning to your objective? Are your emails and the things that you're measuring, are they going to give you, a key result and give you, more data and more information to take to your boss or manager? So it really kind of forces you to be introspective, but then also to want to be able to show, improve kind of that you've made progress in a quarter, and there's, good things to come of that. And so the next month, we're going to be covering the last 3 chapters, which covers the Stretch for Amazing OKR Superpower. And with that, we'll also be showing and highlighting the examples and templates that are also featured in the book, and kind of maybe making some of our own notes and takeaways that we've been doing in our practices. And yeah, just kind of let it be a month of, personal training of OKRs, and seeing, if it's something that you want your manager to kind of implement in your team. But we just thank you for listening to us, and we'll be covering chapters 10, 11, and 12 next time.
Yes, thank you so much, Courtney. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Have a happy week fulfilled with planning and hopefully OKRs drafting as well.
Thank you, everyone.